Everybody, I'm Dr. Danny, and this is Brain Hacking Thursdays from a very windy rooftop. I'm actually traveling today, so I wanted to find an okay place to do this Facebook Live video, so apologies if the quality is not quite up to the regular standards. But today I wanted to talk to you guys about sleep. And I wanted to talk about how to hack your sleep to have the perfect night's sleep without having to do things like taking a sleeping pill every night and really just being aware that we live in a modern world that's really not sleep friendly. So you can see the beautiful beach behind me. So I am traveling at the moment, and when I'm traveling is one of the biggest times that I have to be conscious of my own sleep habits and really practice what I preach, because what happens when we travel is we really disrupt our sleep-wake cycles, our circadian or light and dark rhythms, and our clock genes, our little genes in our cells that control things like our biological rhythms. They really get affected by when we're traveling and we're not in the same time zone, we have overnight flights, those kind of things. I'm also just recovering from a cold, so that's another reason that can make people not sleep really well if they've recently been sick and they're sniffly and it's trouble getting to sleep and staying asleep because you're just not feeling very well. So what I want to talk about first is the fact that really this is glazed over in most of modern medicine, and this is the fact that our sleep cycles and sleep in general is our most basic physiological drive. It is the most important thing that we need to do as humans. In fact, we spend 36% of our life sleeping. That's crazy, right? So when we think about how much time we actually spend sleeping, it's really important to actually make sure we're getting good quality sleep, not just getting to bed and lying there and hoping things are going to go okay and the brain's going to shut off and we're going to get the kind of deep rest that we really need. So the first thing to realize about getting a good quality sleep is it's not just about taking something to sleep. This is the idea that we have in modern life. And one of my mentors, Dr. David Azimus, who is one of my integrated medicine colleagues in the States, he talks a lot about this. He talks a lot about the fact that people have this idea that we need to take something to get to sleep. And don't get me wrong, I use sleep supplements, I use all that stuff too, but if we can wrap our heads around letting go of something to sleep. So, letting go of something to sleep, not just caffeine. It's things like daily habits that are really messing up the sleep-wake cycles in our brains. So good sleep just doesn't come from good sleep hygiene, as anyone with insomnia knows. You can have the best sleep hygiene in the world, and if your brain is not turning on and turning off at the appropriate times, you still can't get a good night's sleep. So the first thing about letting something go to get to sleep is letting go of things that really affect our body and our brain's ability to wind down. So those are things like screens at night, which especially blue light, because blue light comes into the retina and it shuts off things like melatonin, our sleep hormone. But not just that, just the hyper-aroused way that we live, including screen times, including things like caffeine and being up later than was biologically normal for us a few hundred years ago. Having lights at night. So, we go out at night, we watch movies at night, we go to nightclubs, we go out for late dinners. Our bodies are actually programmed to wind down, and there's actually a scientific name for light at night. It's called LAN. There's actually an acronym for it because sleep specialists realize, especially integrated medicine doctors, that having all this light at night or light pollution is really disrupting our circadian rhythms. And what happens is two things. Number one, the brain can't turn on the right chemicals it needs for sleep. So what happens first when you're trying to get to sleep is your brain starts to make more of something called GABA. GABA is the brain neurohormone or brain peptide or little protein that helps us to relax and to wind the nervous system down. Well, guess what impacts GABA directly? It's chronic stress, chronic hyperarousal of the nervous system. That's the way that most of us are living day to day without even consciously being aware of it, because our brains get used to this new state of operating in a higher level of arousal. So that's the first thing. You're not making enough GABA. Then closer to bedtime, we actually start to make more melatonin. Actually, when the sun comes down, so sunset, your body starts to slowly increase the amount of melatonin or sleep hormones it's making. And the melatonin peak usually happens at about 2 a.m. So again, things like high stress hormone at night, cortisol, which should be peaking in the morning, not at nighttime. And again, that's from chronic nervous system hyperarousal. These things impact the GABA and the melatonin production. Then you have the other end of the equation, and that's the brain's ability to shut off the certain switches for wakefulness. So there's another hormone, neurohormone in the brain called orexin. And orexin controls how awake we are. That combined with something called norepinephrine, again, one of the brain's neurotransmitters that is stimulating, again, associated with higher chronic stress states. What happens when you have a lot of orexin around is the brain can't shut off its wakefulness switch. So that means even if there's GABA and melatonin around to try to get you into sleep, your brain's fighting an uphill battle. And guess what? Orexin is actually impacted directly by things like cortisol or the stress hormone, light at night, staying up late at night, caffeine, stimulants, all the things we do in modern life. So it can actually make it almost impossible for people to get a good night's sleep if some of these things aren't addressed on a brain level. When we brain map people, we can see some of these patterns of insomnia, and some of them are what we call heritable, meaning you can inherit propensity or having a higher predisposition for these sleep problems and these sleep-wake switches not working the way that they should. I have a lot of family history of sleep problems in my family, so I have to be really ninja on my sleep, and I have to do a lot of these things on a regular basis in order to get a good sleep. For me, I find one of the biggest breakthroughs I've had is doing a lot of neurofeedback in specific protocols for my sleep. I find that I sleep a lot deeper without having to worry about taking anything, even something natural. That being said, I don't always get the perfect night's sleep. Nobody's perfect. I'm just getting over a cold, like I said, so having sniffles and being up with my cold symptoms at night can also affect sleep. So, I do things in those situations like taking something. I take herbal cold remedies. Even last night, I resorted to an Advil cold and sinus because I know how important it is for me to get that sleep. So all of these things can really affect the sleep cycles. And in another video, I'm actually going to talk more about dreaming health, because this is another, dreaming health and REM sleep is another topic that's really completely ignored by Western medicine, and it is completely essential to our well-being and our brain's ability to recover from our daily traumas and reintegrate. And it's something that I'm really passionate about. So I'm going to share with you guys some more about dream health in a future video. So bye from the rooftop and the beach. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys next week.